Hey YouTube, this is part 2 of the 100 Greatest Singers of All Time. Coming in at number 14 is Hughie Thomasson of the southern rock band The Outlaws. A clear and galloping voice that heralds memories of a western movie with a cowboy on horseback racing through the sand. Hughie was an amazing guitar player and joins other great instrumentalists on this list who are commonly overlooked in terms of singing for shitty pop artists like Madonna. He had great vibrato and emotion in his singing. His voice almost borders on haunting in songs like Ghost Riders in the Sky and Green Grass and High Tides. He was an incredible talent who could sing as technically as a jazz performer at a pace that is as blistering as his guitar onslaught. Number 15, Bill Monroe. Bill Monroe was hiding some vocal talents under his 10-gallon hat because this fiddle player could really belt out a difficult tune like Danny Boy. I feel redundant for saying this considering I just said it about the last listing, but he's an instrumentalist who is not given dues for his singing, even though he deserves to be here on this list with pure singers like Ronnie Van Zant or like Robert Plant, So anyways, even in his elder years, he could hike up the mountain to the next octave. He could sing songs outside his range and still make them sound great. You can hear him strain a little bit here and there, but that only makes it more impressive when he hits the high notes. One of my favorite bluegrass singers. Don't let his fiddle playing completely overshadow his vocals, as they are awesome too. Okay, water intermission real fast. Though he had a comparatively short career, Otis Redding accomplished a lot within that span. He was killed in a plane crash in the mid-1960s prematurely, but is noted as one of the best singers in the history of popular music by many credible sources and by many of his peers and contemporaries. His voice had a great texture, and his open-throated style of singing revolutionized R&B. Otis Redding captures emotion very well in his unusual style, which recalls Sam Cooke a little bit, and he revolutionized music, period, not just R&B, like I said, but all of music. He was one of those people who changed singing, period. Check out These Arms of Mine as a starting place. Coming in at number 17 is Jim Morrison. A far-out songwriter and singer, in his short career, Jim Morrison from The Doors utilized his flat, wry, and haunting voice to create some surreal and spacey pop tunes. He sang with so much energy that even though he had limited range, he brought his poetic compositions to life. Check out The End and Moonlight Lanes as great examples of his best vocal work. He was a unique individual with a lot of enlightened thoughts and ideas who left us far too soon. And additionally, you should check out the ubiquitously popular, Light My Fire. I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've heard that song, so it's a bit fuzzy in my memory. And there's a ton of info here. Okay, so coming in at number 18 is David Gilmore. The best singer in progressive rock, Gilmore's vocals are one of the defining elements of Pink Floyd's absolute finest work. Without his surreal voice, many of Roger Waters' best compositions wouldn't have been able to be executed with the fluid perfection that made the band become legendary. Gilmore is a phenomenal guitarist and an overlooked frontman. Imagine Hey You or Comfortably Numb without his dreamlike vocals carrying you through the euphoria like an albatross over the ocean. Coming in at number 19, Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin. Plant was the ultimate rock frontman in many ways. He brings a variety of vocal skills to the table. He brings sexual energy on their earlier work, which was mostly blues covers with a rock take, a mystic quality on their middle period albums such as Led Zeppelin 4, and a unique blend of melancholy and joy on their later albums. Plant also has the ability to pen songs and ad-lib live and was the band's primary songwriter. He was a creative genius and could use his voice to solo in a way that few other singers have ever even attempted to emulate. He would screech, yell, and moan in his songs, but it always sounded great. Plant is always in the conversation for best rock vocalist, and with good reason. He did things with his voice that I haven't ever heard another male singer do, in his use of his voice as an instrument. Sometimes he just cuts loose and blows your mind. This isn't to say he was inapt to keep a melody. As you can hear, he definitely could do that on songs like Stairway to Heaven. And obviously, I'm not one of those people who only know Zeppelin for their radio hits. I just like their radio hits a little bit more than some of their underrated gems. Anyways, this isn't to say he was inapt to keep a melody, as that is an egregious fallacy. He just shined most when he was improvising, frankly. Check out the live version of Dazed and Confused if you haven't done so hitherto, the one from the Royal Albert Hall. It was in about 1970, about a year or two after they'd formed. He and Page take turns emulating each other. Like Page is playing a bowed violin solo, like he's playing guitar with a violin bow, which is really weird. But Robert Plant will sing to what Jimmy Page is playing, and then while Robert Plant is doing his vocal soloing I mentioned earlier, Page will play the notes on the guitar, so you can tell these guys both have incredible musical ears because it sounds nothing like the studio record. It still sounds great. It'd be cool if they re-released it as a studio version or on some sort of album so you didn't just have to listen to it on YouTube. Anyways, Page plays to Plant's singing in a synchronized manner, and Plant emulates the bowed guitar solo of his bandmate. Coming in at number 20 is John Fogarty. As the most soulful white man of all time, arguably, John Fogarty brought a country flavor to the music of Little Richard and other black singers, in addition to penning a slew of his own classic songs as the lead singer of Creedence Clearwater Revival. CCR, my favorite band ever, I think, the most consistent rock band. His voice has a lot of grit to it that allows him to wail like Screaming Jay Hawkins or sing a ballad like Someday Never Comes beautifully. His voice deteriorated after he left the band in 1972, and he doesn't sound the same, but we'll always remember him for what he used to sound like. Now he sounds like a middle-aged woman, frankly, and I don't know, maybe he just sang the grit off his voice, something like that. I don't know if you could do that. Anyways, most singers, their voices get raspier, as they get older, especially like Neil Young and a lot of rock singers who sing at a very energetic level. But John Fogarty proceeded in the complete opposite direction, and his voice has lost all of the grit and bravado that made it so wonderful in the first place. But you can still listen to their old songs, and they've got a slew of albums that are very good. Even their album tracks, aren't bad. Their B-sides are just as good as their A-sides, in my opinion. For instance, Green River, that album, is famous for the eponymous song Green River, but it also has underrated gems such as Sinister Purpose that are even better, in my opinion. And Someday Never Comes, or not Someday Never Comes, Wrote a Song for Everyone is what I'm thinking of, but you can check out either. Anyways, you can tell I love Creedence Clearwater. I know a lot about them. My dad got me into them, and my dad, I think, might have passed. We haven't heard from him in a while, so a little personal intermission there. But Creedence Clearwater Revival, I just wanted to take a brief amount of time out of my scripted segments on each band to say that this band has a lot of personal meaning to me. And since I haven't seen my father in a really long time and he got me into them, the place they hold in my heart is even more special, and I hope he's okay. Anyways, sorry if that's a little bit too personal for you guys. I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but I just wanted to share a little bit about my life and why that band is so special to me. And it's all because of Fogarty's singing. I mean, frankly, their instrumentals were upbeat, but they were average at best, kind of like the Beatles, where it's the vocals. It's the vocals that do it for you. So that's why he's on this list. Coming in at number 21 is Bob Seeger. In my opinion, Bob Seeger was one of the finest straightforward rock singers of his day. His punchy, energetic vocals on old-time rock and roll only highlight one type of sound he was capable of producing. Additionally, he could produce a much more solemn and withdrawn sound on songs like Turn the Page and Night Moves. Sorry. I fucked up and the sentence is completely mutilated. This sentence looks like it got attacked by Jeffrey Dahmer. Additionally, he could produce much more solemn and withdrawn music like Turn the Page and Night Moves, where his voice is controlled and has a lonely, tired tone to it. Much like John Fogarty, his voice has 5 o'clock shadow regardless of what he is singing, and it is awesome. Check this guy out. I mean, you've probably heard that song I mentioned on like K-Fox or a classic rock radio station, but he has a lot of other good ones that you should check out too. Coming in at number 22 is James Hetfield of Metallica, for variety's sake. It's probably better singers I could put on this list, but he's probably the best metal singer, so I felt if you're the best in your genre, it's probably better to have him here than just a clone of some generic black R&B singer. That's one of the things I didn't like about the Rolling Stones list, is that it was 192 black R&B jazz singers who sounded exactly the same as each other, and I don't know. I just felt like there wasn't much variety or thought put into it, and a lot of it was just racial pandering, So, coming in at number 22 on my list, James Hetfield. James Hetfield is one of the best singers in all of metal. Most metal singers sound like Cookie Monster getting a hysterectomy. James Hetfield has a very wide range of talents, and he can sound like the devil himself, or he can sound downright beautiful. His vocals on Master of Puppets and Nothing Else Matters show that there are several different vocalists living under the same roof in Hetfield's body, so he can do a quite impressive job, be it thrash metal or an 80s style power ballad such as The Unforgiven. Number 23, Waylon Jennings. The most powerful voice in the Highwaymen, Waylon Jennings is a uniquely talented singer in a genre where most people have fairly mediocre voices but write good songs. So he was unusually talented for a country singer. Most of those guys rely on their songwriting skills. His voice is deep and bellowing, and with his emphatic guitar playing, he marches through a song like Paul Bunyan through the forests and mountains of mythology. Coming in at number 24, and if I was ranking this list, this guy would be in the top 5, so that shows you my opinion of him, is Freddie Mercury of Queen. A singer with more range than anyone in rock, not just vocally, but in terms of song type. Freddy did 6 different styles of songs in one in Bohemian Rhapsody. He essentially displayed a level of versatility in one song that several different genres of music have never fully reached. He was born with a really bad overbite, and my girlfriend told me this because she's a Queen superfan, and the doctors told him they could remove it, but at the cost of his singing. He would sound a lot different and maybe wouldn't have the quality of voice to become famous anymore if they'd removed it. But anyways, true to form, Freddy kept it for his art. He has a 3-octave range, quite rare for any singer, especially a male. Most, singers like Ella Fitzgerald are the ones with those, and it's usually women, as that would insinuate, because women have more range. Anyways, an inspirational figure to many, Freddy shows that being gay doesn't make you any less talented and unique, or any less of a human being. So, fuck you, homophobes. Coming in at number 25 is Elton John. Elton John is so significant in the world of music, he was actually knighted. His unique style of singing is a hard essence to capture in words because of the amount of stuff he did with his voice. On songs like Tiny Dancer and Can You Feel the Love, he flies through the songs with undeniable emotion in his voice and powerful crescendos that show considerable sustain and vibrato in addition to utilizing his good range. On other songs, his singing is more restrained and almost reflects the mellow growl of a cat waiting to pounce during the crescendo. Elton John is one of the most versatile singers in history and uses his unusual voice to produce intimate and sincere emotional music. It's very provocative. Sometimes he is singing in a very basic way for the duration of the song in order to give greater effect to the climax, where his voice will turn from purr to roar and go up rather high. It is like Nirvana's loud, quiet dynamic on guitar and drums, but with a voice, and that's pretty fucking cool, and so is Elton John as a whole. Okay, so number 26 on my list. Why am I saying Elton John again? Sorry. Number 26 is Ray Charles. As you can tell, this isn't the most composed video, but I'm trying my damnedest here. I've done like 50 takes of this. I'm not even shitting you guys, so fuck it if I screw up. My new catchphrase, live with it! Number 26, Ray Charles. The relaxed and classy, timeless Ray Charles had a warming voice. He was a brilliant performer who was talented enough to not need a studio to sound good. He had so much love of music that he was into his performances no matter how many times he'd done the song. A lot of artists do it for the money, but Ray was there for the music. I would say his voice is like sitting next to a crackling fireplace in the cold of winter with hot chocolate. He was as smooth as they come, and his little quirks only added to the legacy of his great voice. Number 27, perhaps one of the most underrated singers of all time, period, Layne Staley from Alice in Chains. In 4 albums, Layne Staley of Alice in Chains managed to carve into stone a legacy as one of the most powerful, unique, and talented voice in not only grunge but rock history. Much like Ozzy Osbourne, he could purvey a really creepy, demonic character type in songs like Angry Chair and Wood. Much like James Hetfield of Metallica, he could sing pretty damn well when the occult image was set aside for a more personal track such as Nutshell. I prefer him to the latter 2 performers and really love how his voice thunders on Man in the Box and Bleed the Freak. I think the thing that separates him is how clear his voice is. While grunge is largely about the image, the rhythm, and the attitude, this guy was really a professional singer with pipes that were nobody's joke. He could bellow and yell in a raw, beautiful, furious, idiosyncratic type of anguish. The melancholy that soaks through his voice bespeaks the tragedy of another artist that was lost to drug addiction, and he died in 2002 in his early 30s, and that's very sad because the music world really would be a lot better than it is today if this guy was still breathing and still kicking and still rocking, you know? So, rest in peace, Layne. We'll all miss you. You're one of the best artists ever in my book. Coming in at number 28, the King of Cool, Dean Martin. The King of Cool is actually a better singer in technical terms than his most common comparison, Frank Sinatra. Dean had far better vibrato and tone, as well as a smoother voice. His vocals rumbled through the song, as vibrato was a constant feature of each word and melody, not just the crescendos. His voice is smooth, clean, and crisp as vanilla ice cream. Dean Martin crooned, but not in the same speech-like way that highlighted many of his fellow legends. Just like everything else in his life, he did it with more style and pizzazz. And the only downside of him is that he has a smaller catalog than Frank Sinatra, who really, they sound mistakably similar. And it's actually pretty eerie if you listen to it. Kind of like Sam Cooke and Otis Redding. They're 2 singers whose voices are mistakable for one another if you're not an expert on them. Coming in at number 29 is Slim Whitman. This man puts all but a few to shame with his effortless utilization of range. He was a yodeler, but with a different phrasing than the old of Jimmy Rogers. He would hit high notes like yodels while singing, and the best example is his enormous hit Rosemarie that spent 36 weeks at number 1 on the United Kingdom charts. He was usually not very much of a hit in America, even though he's from here, and he did very well in Europe. He typically avoided the depressed, alcohol-oriented country music that's played in saloons, and instead sang songs about love and about living the simple life. His distinctive range will make you fall in love with yodeling, which some will sadly not give a chance, because they can't bypass the novelty of a man in a feathered hat and lederhosen yodeling in the Alps beside his herd of goats. Slim Whitman has some of the greatest boogie tracks, such as Blackberry Boogie, in addition to his yodeling. Finally, he has a very odd and very surreal masterpiece called Indian Love Call, which is not very well remembered, but if you check it out, it feels like being contacted by aliens. He's trying to emulate the cry of Native Americans. It really reminds me of being visited by UFOs. It freaked my girlfriend out when I played it for her. She's like, what the fuck is happening, you know? So coming in at number 30 on my list, check out Slim Whitman, by the way. You won't regret it if you're into anything, rockabilly, country, bluegrass, any of that stuff. If you like those, he has songs in those styles. So, sorry to interrupt. My next listing is number 30, Shawn Morgan from Seether. Shawn Morgan from Seether has one of the best voices in rock to emerge since the grunge explosion died down in the late 90s. He sounds a lot like Kurt Cobain, but it's easier to understand when he speaks. I love his melancholy voice and the range of emotion he shows. On Find Again, he shows desperation and futility. On Broken, he shows guilt and longing. On Needles and Remedy, he shows a controlled anger. Seether is a teen angst band in a lot of ways, but is that really a bad thing? We all get those emotions sometimes, regardless of age, and Shawn Morgan is the voice that makes you realize you are never alone in your problems and aren't a freak. Everyone needs to hear a voice like Shawn's at some point in their life, and what's better than the real thing? Seether's probably one of the better bands to listen to when you're depressed. As some of you guys know, I've dealt with that over the course of my life. Anyways, let's not turn this into a personal sob story here. Coming in at number 31 is Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam. The sheer power in Eddie Vedder's voice is unbelievable. On songs like Black, Even Flow, and Jeremy, he soars sky high during the choruses and crescendos and slowly descends back down into the next verse with his energetic, passionate, and enigmatic, steady slur of verbiage. Man, I'm the one who's slurring even more than Eddie Vedder. Eddie Vedder can be hard to understand at points, much like Kurt Cobain on Smells Like Teen Spirit. Yet you can always hear just enough to get a vague sense of the story he's telling. He's one of the easiest guys to make a misheard lyrics video, for instance. He has probably the most of those on YouTube out of anybody, and those are hilarious. He's one of the most recognizable voices in rock history due to his powerful roars, yells, and his mumbled speech. He's quite diverse too, and produced the entire soundtrack to the movie Into the Wild and played every instrument on the record, which is amazing. This man is a national treasure and is one of the few icons